The first movie that I will be talking about today is one that I decided to watch because I was going through IMDb and just looking at the highest ratings movies, and I saw Leon, the Professional, at an 8.5 on IMDb. That's really high. So I was really looking forward to this. So I found it. I was able to watch it, and I'm really confused, if I'm going to be honest. I feel like an 8.5 is way too high, and I'm honestly not sure why so many people would rate this highly. I'm just going to get out of the way and say that I would give this movie a 6 out of 10, and I'm going to get into spoilers for why I think this movie is really not as good as people claim. That's a kind way of putting it. So, let's just start by saying that this plot is kind of ridiculous. And my biggest problems, or one of my biggest problems, is with Gary Oldman in this movie. He plays the bad guy, the DEA agent, and his character, just everything about it is terribly written. He tries to be so intimidating, like he's popping these pills. Oh, you don't want to get him in his zone. He listens to the music and he talks about that, and talks about Mozart while he's killing people. It was incredibly cringeworthy, and I just was not intimidated. It was like wet newspaper was just being thrown at the screen. I was like, oh wow, this is so amazing to watch. And that's besides the fact that his character just in general makes no sense at all. I was so confused during the after that 12 o'clock thing when he goes back to the guy who doesn't, for some reason, move his family out after he knows that they're going to be killed if he doesn't. Whatever. So they come in there, and there's that firefight, and the kid dies, and the guy dies, and someone else dies, right? And he just tells one of his minions to just stay there to talk to the cops. And I thought he was, joking because he, messed up and the guy would just leave. But apparently the DEA is totally fine with this guy just being completely rogue, killing people. We even eventually find that out when Matilda goes back to the apartment for the money, the money and her brother, right? And he's just talking to DEA agents, describing exactly what happens, and it's so confusing. I just don't understand what they were going for with that. I think it's supposed to imply that every single cop in the city is corrupt, because I don't know how else any of that would work. It's just bizarre. He's so obviously corrupt. What DEA okay, the crew he runs with is clearly all just low-level thugs. They're not police officers, so no one questions that. This isn't a gigantic problem for me, but the more I think about it, or the more you think about a movie, it shouldn't make less and less sense. That's definitely not a good thing, and this does not make any sense at all. And that's just with Gary Oldman's character and everything to do with that. Aside from that, okay, Matilda, and her family's killed and she gets taken in by the assassin. When I read this little plot synopsis, I thought, oh, this will be an interesting story. Maybe it'll be a father-daughter relationship, And as I was going through, considering how alone Leon was, I thought, this actually could go somewhere. But that's not where they take it. And just like with Super, I really don't like to feel incredibly uncomfortable during my movies unless it's being handled incredibly well, and that's an intention. And I want to say that I think this can be done. I never want to say that I would censor someone trying to do a story where, even if you go to as far as you're handling really sensitive topics like rape or whatever, I think it can be done, but you have to be a very good writer, and that has to be your entire point throughout the movie. You are doing everything you can to context this and make it make sense so you're not being actually offensive. In this movie, it's just 5 minutes randomly at different points where she keeps saying that she loves Leon and wants to kiss him and wants to fuck him, and it's really, really weird. Incredibly strange. I don't know why audiences were just so comfortable with this. She's, 12, 13 in the movie? And Leon's 40, 50? It's really weird. It is incredibly awkward. And again, I don't want to say that it's wrong because of that. I mean, it's not a good thing to include when you're this caliber of writing, considering we've already talked about Gary Oldman. But yeah, it made me incredibly uncomfortable. It wasn't even the focus point of the movie. It was just these random scenes that were just totally taking me out of the movie because I just could not understand why you would include something like that. It was incredibly bizarre. I don't know why they would do it, but it was really bad. I mean, aside from that, I also thought that Natalie Portman's acting was not the best. At times, it was not great. And that's my criticisms. Some positives. I liked a lot of the action stuff. I thought that was kind of interesting. I mean, maybe it wasn't all great. It's not like The Raid or whatever, but, you know, it was alright. And other than that, I thought Leone's acting was actually not that bad. And, you know, cinematography and stuff. But, yeah, those two things are really big. And there were some other weird elements about plot. Like when Matilda and Leone are on the top of the building using a sniper. And for some reason, they decide to show that they shoot someone of importance because everyone draws their guns. He's clearly some, like, connected politician or whatever. And it's never brought up later in the movie. It just happens. I thought, hey, considering they did reincorporation with, like, the ring trick and the grenades, maybe that would have been reincorporated too, but no, it just randomly happens. It has nothing to do with anything. That would be it, but there's one more thing that I have to mention. And that's that after the apartment's blown up and whatever, and we're like, oh, did Leone survive? Oh, there's this guy wearing one of those uniforms who's still alive, and it was incredibly obvious that was Leone because, you know, we know what he looks like. And they drag him out of there, and something crazy to me is how come absolutely none of the officers or none of the thugs or nobody other than Gary Oldman knew what Leone was looked like? What? Like, they even take off his mask and they don't recognize him. So I guess they're seriously telling me that nobody knows what he looked like, even though they went to specifically there to kill him. I guess that's kind of a nitpick, but it definitely took me out of the movie because that was ridiculous. And of course it leads to Gary Oldman deciding to go 1v1 against him, which gets him killed. Yeah, isn't that great to watch characters die because they're idiots? Well, that's my thoughts on Leone the Professional. I wouldn't really recommend it, but I don't know, if you really want to watch something like that, or my problems listed wouldn't bother you, then go ahead. Onwards with the next movie. Over the quarantine, now like a year and a half ago, I decided that I was going to make a list and sort out all the recommendations and movies I had seen, and just put them in a giant list and categorize and rank them, all that. And one movie that I kept getting recommendations for, or seeing recommendations for, was a movie called Under the Skin. And roughly a month ago, I decided, hey, I was going to watch it. On the IMDb, it has a score of like roughly 6.3, and I mean, I've seen movies with low scores on IMDb before. That doesn't really stop me. So, yeah, I watched it. And I really liked it. So I'll give some brief notes without going into spoilers. First things first, what's this movie about? Essentially, it's a person, Scarlett Johansson, that's going through the streets of Scotland, talking to people and trying to lure them back to a room for nefarious purposes. And eventually, there's some changes along the way. That's it in simplest terms. It's a movie that I feel you should probably go into not knowing much more than that. Some other notes I wanted to give on this. Scarlett Johansson, you know, from the Marvel movies that makes the big money. Yeah, she's in this indie Scottish horror movie. And she's great. She's the main character, and she does an excellent job. Like, you can really tell that something is incredibly wrong with her, and the slow change that she goes throughout the movie. Great work. And the other actors also do a pretty great job. And that's not even to mention that a lot of the people that she accosts from her vehicle during those segments are actually just local Scottish people. that they just got for the movie, and they didn't really know exactly what was happening before they actually like told them. So like those are some genuine interactions that you're seeing, and they do their part pretty great. A slight criticism that I have with a movie is I feel that there are a lot of those scenes, and maybe some of them could have been cut out. But for other ones, like some of those Scottish accents are just so thick, and coming at it from an American audience's point of view, it is kind of like alienating to hear that, which is kind of the point as you are following the movie from Scarlett Johansson's perspective. It makes more sense as it goes along. I thought it was a really great inclusion. Next, I'd have to bring up the script. I thought it was pretty great. I'll talk more about this in like spoilers about what it all means, but needless to say, I thought it was very, very interesting. I'd really seen something else like this in a while, or maybe ever. Lastly, I'll bring up the imagery and the cinematography. They were very good. I've seen a lot, like Videodrome, The Thing, Society, and the imagery from this, it's really great. The special effects I thought were very convincing. The everything to do with the Black Room, I thought that was great. And of course that's enhanced with the cinematography. All of it was shot well. You could tell they weren't just, covering up for things, and everything to do with the special effects were great. They were really impactful. And the cinematography for some of the other scenes was also really great. The environmental footage, like those nature shots, were really beautiful. The shots from the woods, especially near the end of the movie with the snow, I thought that everything to do with that looked amazing. The shots near the sea with the family there, those all looked great. Just all around, the cinematography and imagery, excellent. If any of that seems interesting to you, go watch the movie. I give it an 8 out of 10. I'll probably watch it again. I mean to. And when I do, I might be convinced to go to 9 out of 10 now that I've seen it once. Now, on to spoiler section. So leave a video if you've not seen it, or I guess if you're not all interested in something like this. Okay, what's this movie about? As we could see from the very ending of the movie, when she unzips her skin, yeah, they're not human. So what are they? Probably some kind of alien or whatever. Maybe they're just, I don't know, collecting things for some invasion or whatever. Maybe they're just some weird, like, fantasy creatures or some, like, I don't know, like, underground society, like vampires or whatever. That's not really that important. What is important is that the females, this race, or maybe they're ones that cosplay as females, are going around hunting for specifically men, and they take them down to that Black Room, and that's where they, turn them into, or they get them into that liquid state and extract all the organs and meat and bone, all that stuff, and those amazing shots. Like, I told you, that stuff sticks with you. Now, what they use that for, who knows? That's not really the focus of the movie, which, of course, is on Scarlett Johansson. Near the beginning of the movie, you could tell she just doesn't care about these people at all. I mean, it kind of does make sense. Like, when she does start actually, like, caring about them was with the deformed man, because he actually kind of questioned things around him and wasn't just immediately looking for Scarlett Johansson. Like, if you remember during all those scenes in the Black Room, like, no one else ever really questioned what was going on. They just immediately straight for her. And he was the only one to, like, comment about how it's cold and look around, and eventually Scarlett Johansson rescues him, actually, and tries to send him home. Of course, that doesn't, work, as he gets intercepted by a motorcycle person, and that's when they realize that she's gone rogue. She does eventually, find love or whatever, but as we can see from that, coffee shop scene where she tries to eat the cake and is unable to, she's just not human. And no matter how she tries to be, she just isn't. And yeah, it's unfortunate, but hey, she does actually start to have emotions and feelings. And if you recall from the beginning of the movie, with the lady that was on the floor that Scarlett Johansson was stripping the clothes from, she actually had a tear in her eye. And, you know, that starts to make sense considering the bicycle people start hunting down Scarlett Johansson. Once you start showing emotion, they're going to hunt you down, kill you, and replace you. And that does make the ending of the movie interesting to me, because she runs away and has the potential, or I guess not even potential, the full-on rapist try to, attack her and get with her or whatever, and then, he eventually just decides to kill her instead after she reveals what she is. And it's an interesting ending. Not quite sure why they would choose to have the encounter like that, but it's interesting because it's kind of good in a way that she actually, as determined by the end shot where the guy in the motorcycle is trying to look for her but just can't find her and gives up, she escapes. I mean, she's dead, but at least she wasn't captured by them. She died free. Some other special notes: the use of animals and eyes, or maybe animals is a bad name for them, but in the beginning you had the ant when she was just beginning, exploring the world. You had the fly that was trapped against the window and just couldn't escape. I mean, kind of obvious what those represent, but I like their inclusion. I don't know about the eye though. Maybe it was because there was just nothing there near the beginning, but there wasn't really a callback to that at the end. Not that there really could be, considering she was, burning. But it is what it is. I very much like their inclusion. Now that I already know what to expect going into the movie, I'd probably be able to get another look at it when I do watch it again. And maybe I'll even comment about it. There is another part of the movie that I don't fully understand the meaning of, but I'll try and give my take on it, at least after just one watch. And that would be the Czech tourist that Scarlett Johansson meets. Everything to do with that scene I thought was a little odd. I mean, it was beautifully shot, but the family all drowns, like the mom, the dad, and the dog, right? And he had tried to save the dad, but, he failed. He'd gone back in, he failed. But the fact that he leaves the baby to, the elements, and eventually, later on we learned that the baby dies, which, of course it is. He leaves it. So, what that means, at that point in the movie, Scarlett Johansson has not developed any feelings for the humans. She's still just, disposing of them in the black room. So, I would say that that's kind of the purpose of that scene as well. This guy just leaves the baby to die, which is the embodiment of innocence. Thus, Scarlett Johansson doesn't care at all if he dies. He's not going to be the one that triggers that feeling for humans that, oh, they're more than this. At least that's my interpretation for now. But, yeah, I really like that all that stuff was in the movie. And if you have a different interpretation, or you think that that IMDb score was right, then discuss it with me, in comments or whatever. I'd be interested to see other viewpoints on this, or maybe even other interpretations of the movie. I do want to give a brief note on the formatting for this video. If you were to watch my other movie review double feature video, you'd notice that I had glorious trailer footage playing throughout the entire thing, and it gave great context. You had a visual aid for what I was talking about. I was really happy with it. I was so glad that I had that. That video got claimed and demonetized. Now, I don't make any money from this YouTube channel anyways, so that's not what I care about. But considering my Wish Upon review had been, claimed 2 weeks later, and I gave up on ever trying to restore that, I need to be far more careful, I guess. And even though I'm literally promoting these movies, the companies, or these production companies, just want to, copyright literally everything. So I'm only going to use those still frames and have video game footage in the background. I want to do more, I want to make it better, but I just get taken down every single time. So that's really frustrating, but it is what it is. I guess just enjoy this mediocre gameplay playing in the background. At least the Break It Our soundtrack is good,